Oh, it's me, Jenspins, welcoming you guys back to my gaming and unboxing channel. Woohoo! And today we have an unboxing for the Jakks Pacific Super Mario Brothers movie line. Yahoo! Let's go! And that's basically going to be all of my Mario voice for the rest of the video, because my throat is getting very tired. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did not think that I would do an unboxing or a video for this movie for two reasons. One, because I'm broke and all my money is going to my college. And two, because the Wave 1 figures have this really creepy detail where they have these glass eyes over Mario, Luigi, and Peach, and when you look at them, their eyes follow you. If you have the chance, go into your local toy store, check out one of these figures if they're still up, pick it up, and just move it around left, right, up, down. The pupils will just follow your eyesight. They will always be locked on. And to be honest, I did not like the idea of just having Luigi sitting on my shelf as I'm sleeping, and I just open my eyes, and here's Luigi's eyes just locked onto me no matter where I go. I get up for the morning to leave the room, and there's just Luigi just like, I don't need that in my life. I don't need to think that I'm being possessed by Luigi. But today's figure is going to be on none other than Princess Peach from Wave 2. Not from Wave 1 because she has the weird eye thing, but surprisingly, she does not have it for the Wave 2 version, which is her Mario Kart Wii suit, and that's because she has the visor on. So they decided not to add that detail, and oh my god, Jakks Pacific, thank you, because if there was any figure that I would have wanted, it would have been Peach, and I felt kind of distraught that I wouldn't have been able to get Peach from this line. But that being said, that gives me a chance to give you guys an overview of the movie and my opinions on it. So I do want to preference this with, I really enjoyed the movie. As a Mario fan, I loved seeing all of the different references. The glass Pikmin in the house, the Punch-Out bar, the Kid Icarus stuff. Honestly, you could just ramble on and on and on about the references in this movie, and it's really cool, to the point where critics say, hey, maybe fans only enjoyed this movie because of the references, and I gotta say, no. Well, that does help, but it's also because it is still at its core a Mario movie. It's not trying to be something that it's not. It is still Mario going to the Mushroom Kingdom, trying to save... Well, in this movie, it's saving Luigi, and Princess Peach helps him out, but it's still Mario and his friends going up against Bowser and trying to go through the Mushroom Kingdom and make everything work. It's still that wackiness. It's still power-ups and Mario Kart. That's what makes it so enjoyable, because, again, at its core, it's Mario. But of course, we can't go with talking about this movie without talking about the voice actors as well, and I gotta say, I have some opinions on this. If you don't like my opinions, that's okay. Just please be nice about it. The voices that I really liked in this movie, Charlie Day as Luigi, I felt fit him really well, like that cowardice voice, and he didn't even have to do an extra voice. It just worked really nicely with Luigi. I think Anna Taylor-Joy as Peach, surprisingly, a lot of people don't like her, but I actually enjoyed her as Peach. Her voice fit the mellow of Peach and the vibe of her, and I also just really liked Peach as a character inside of the movie, which absolutely helps. And my favorite voice, I think everybody can agree on this, Jack Black as Bowser. Whew, man. He is genuinely the only voice actor in a movie that I would not mind if they put him in the games, because he's that passionate and that good at the role. I just absolutely love it. If it doesn't happen, I'm okay with that. But if it did, honestly, only one that I wouldn't be upset with. Seth Rogen as Donkey Kong, I think it works. He didn't really do a voice. There's no problem with it, but I don't like or hate it. The two that I'm not that big a fan of, though, Chris Pratt as Mario, and I'll get to that in a second, and then Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Now, I do have a friend that has said, oh, you really don't like Keegan-Michael Key as Toad? And my reasoning is because I feel like he's more, yelling than he is shrieking. I feel like the trailers are I know that sounded so stupid, but he doesn't really feel like Toad to me. He just feels more like yelling and high energy than how Toad's voice normally sounds to me. But it's his is more of a nitpick, to be honest. And it was more of the trailers that bothered me. Throughout the movie, I was fine with it. But the one that I truly was kind of mad on was Mario. There were times where I was like, oh, he's doing a really nice job. But then other times, I could hear the Chris Pratt at the end of his sentences, where, like, instead of hearing Mario, I just heard that tiny little syllable of Chris Pratt in there, and it would just break me out for a few seconds. But yeah, overall voice actors, that's my opinions on it. So I'm assuming at this point, if you guys clicked on this video, you probably have seen the movie. So instead of giving an overview about the movie, I would love to give an overview about the scene where this comes from. And as I mentioned before, this suit actually comes from Mario Kart Wii, which is really cool that they put that inside of the movie for that fan service. If you choose a bike as any of the princesses or the female human characters, such as Pauline now, Rosalina, or Daisy, you get a biker suit, and I just think that's really cool. RTV is also included, but Peach, Daisy, and Rosalina were the original ones in Mario Kart Wii to start off the biker suit. And in that, Peach actually gets a ponytail instead of a helmet. So, pretty cool. I think the helmet does work, and it being a little safer is also just better because eventually she uses it to go into battle. So over the course of the movie, Bowser ends up taking Luigi, and Mario and Peach realize, hey, Mushroom Kingdom is not going to be strong enough to fend against Bowser. So Peach goes, okay, we need to go to the Kong army. We need to convince them to join us to protect the Mushroom Kingdom and also to protect their kingdom. So they go. Mario has to fight Donkey Kong in a Smash Brothers arena, which is just so freaking cool. And then on top of that, after they finally get the alliance, Cranky Kong is like, we have a secret road, and it turns out to be Rainbow Road, so all of them get to make their own carts, and my god, the references in it, it's so cool. You've got the biker suit, Mario using the standard cart, Toad using these big wheels, and his horn actually is the horn from Mario Kart, which is, I freaking love it. So they go on Rainbow Road, then they're ambushed by the Koopa army, and that's just super cool because then you have all these Koopas and, well, mostly Koopas just driving on Rainbow Road, trying to attack them with bullet bills, Koopas just throwing each other as shells, Mario jumping out of his cart, jumping on the Koopas, throwing the shells to break other carts. It's basically Mario Kart Destruction Derby, and it's freaking awesome. They at one point destroy Mario's cart too? And the best part is, the blue shell that is here, spiny shell, whatever you want to call it, is actually a character inside of the movie who turns himself into the blue shell and goes straight after Mario and Donkey Kong, swirls around them, and just destroys the road. It's, oh my god, there's so many things that I could talk about, but it's already been like 10 minutes, and I know people have gone on in the comments to say, like, hey, you go on a little bit too much with, like, overview and, like, all this stuff. So I apologize, but I am nerd, and it is also 2 in the morning. That being said, though, I do believe that it is time to open up Peach. But before I do that, I do at least want to mention that when you look up Mario Kart Wii's release date, for some reason, this is the picture that comes up. I know it's from, like, a Nintendo Direct, but I'm pretty sure that's from, like, Year of Luigi? Anyway, though, it's time to open up the princess. I can open up the box. Ow. Rude. I gotta say, though, this is probably one of Jakks Pacific's nicest boxes. Having the accessory, having the character, and just overall, the presentation, super nice. Definitely gonna keep this box, even though I think I did damage it with the scissors a little bit. So, before we go on to the character, gotta get hit with that blue shell, and man, this is super cool. They've had blue shell figures in the past, but they've mostly been from, like, the Mario Kart Connects line, and they've always been these tiny little, like, knockoff Lego type of pieces, just very small, not very detailed. So it's really nice seeing like a full-on figure of one of these. And not only that, on this and in the movie, they kept the wings. I always felt that it was weird once they took off the wings. I think it was so that you could get hit with it on the ground, but I like the design better with the wings because it adds like that much more personality and it gives that idea of like, okay, you get it from a Koopa Paratroopa instead of just a regular Koopa Troopa. So I've always just really enjoyed that. I feel like we all know the infamous blue shell. You get him first, somebody throws the blue shell, and you gotta hope that you get a sound horn or a mushroom. Back in the day, it was just a mushroom, and if you were a kid, maybe you didn't even know that trick, so you just saw the blue shell coming, and you were like, oh god, I am doomed, I can't do anything. This is the reason why they call Mario Kart the Friendship Ruiner. Man, it's like one of the most iconic pieces of video game history, considering that like it's part of the Switch's highest grossing game at this point. And I'm curious once I upload this how high it's actually going to be because I think it's at like 57 million at this point. Tangents aside, we need to get onto the figure, and interestingly enough, they actually have feathers on both the front and the back of the wings. I guess because they're figuring you're going to be looking at this from all angles, which is just really nice, and the layering of the feathers is really good. It has that extra texture that they didn't necessarily need to add. They could have just put an easy white wing on there, curved it a little bit, and been completely fine. They probably could have gotten away without curving it, but they did curve it, and it just gives it that much more personality. On top of that, the blue that they used is such a nice, deep, rich blue. You also have the spikes on here, which are surprisingly not very sharp, as a lot of figures will actually do these spikes and then they'll make them way too sharp. So I do appreciate the fact that they dulled those a little bit. And on top of that, they have these grooves in there really nicely, just carved in there so you can see them on camera, off camera, and just in general looks really good. You also do have the holes for the leg, the head, all that on the Koopa underbelly, as well as the underbelly just in general. So all in all, looks pretty good. And anybody in first, watch out because you just got blue shelled. Okay, now it's time to go on to Peach. Man, I am so glad that I can have this figure. As somebody that grew up with Mario Kart Double Dash and Mario Kart Wii, especially Mario Kart Wii, seeing this as a figure is just one of the coolest things. Because we didn't have the, like, Mario Kart Hot Wheels. We didn't have the Mario Kart toys being prominent. You were lucky to get some, like, Yoshi figures and all that, like, mainline Mario, and that was basically it. Sonic figures, you could pretty easily get, and they were experimenting a lot. But back when I grew up, there wasn't a lot of this. So I'm absolutely loving the fact that they're just spicing these up and they're just throwing everything that people would love at the wall and letting you buy figures like this. It's just so freaking cool. And on top of that, this is just torn straight out of the movie. And that is something that Jakks Pacific always does fantastically. Now, I haven't had a lot of Jakks Pacific's Mario figures, but this is extremely different from their normal Mario figures. And it does look like it's a lot more quality with a lot more articulation. So I'm wondering if they figured that they should make these a little bit more quality since they're bigger, or because they want them to sell really nicely for the movie. They have more of a collector's vibe than they do have like a play vibe to them. And I think that's really neat. Especially since it didn't come with, like, a cart, it came with the blue shell. So overall, one of the coolest things about this that they didn't have to do is adding the little wrinkles inside of the jumpsuit. You've got a bunch of wrinkles on the arm in the front, but also on the back, and these wrinkles are actually completely different compared to the arms, with the legs being a little bit different as well. They're also more wrinkled where the joints are, which does make a lot of sense, but it's effort that they definitely did not have to put inside this figure. The helmet itself, too, is really nice and hard looking, like an actual helmet, compared to the jumpsuit. And I think that's just another really awesome thing, as they have the tiny little details here. Maybe I think they're just supposed to be racing bumps, but maybe they're like headlights for the helmet. That would be interesting. And then you've got the pink tiger stripes right there. Going from there, you also have her ponytail. I watched it twice in theaters and once with my parents, and I never noticed that she has the ponytail coming out of the helmet. This is also why I love getting these figures, because you find little details like that that you would just straight up never notice. And it actually flows really nicely, being very layered, just like the feathers on the blue shell. And you also have it like curved up from different strands of hair, which just looks really awesome. Back onto the helmet, you also have the visor, which is this nice orange-yellow color and is transparent, and is the reason why I'm allowed to buy this, because like I said before, we don't have the creepy eye follow thing, so that means we get to see her nice little eyelashes, her cute little cat ears, which Nintendo has been recently giving Peach, and then you've got the tiny little nose, and the nice little, like, red lipstick on there. Surprisingly enough, or I guess after this long of doing figure unboxings, this shouldn't surprise me, but they do actually have the tiny little sideburns under the helmet. It's a little bit hard to see on the camera, but you might see that tiny little peak of yellow. So going back onto the jumpsuit, we have mentioned about like the astronaut like fabric wrinkles, but we haven't mentioned the scarf here, which is just a little bit off center, as if you look on the emblem, it's over to the side. And then the tie on there is actually right on her one shoulder, but not the other, which is just a really nice detail. You do also have a little bit of a wrinkle up above the belt, which definitely means that they put the belt a little bit too high on the stomach, and I'm wondering if that's like a separate piece. That's not for this figure, that's just for like the jumpsuit design in and of itself. And that's such an interesting thing to think of. Or if they wanted to make sure that you could tell there was a belt there, which is kind of interesting design in and of itself. Make it look more jumpsuity rather than it just being like, oh, she's just in like this like spandex suit kind of a thing. And for that, it's just a basic belt with a little bit of silver on the front and then going around. There's not too much else to talk about for the figure other than the boots themselves, which one of the first times, if not the first time, that Peach is wearing a different shoe type, and that's just really cool. They kind of look like I was going to say they look like the Kirby color scheme, but they are. So that explains why they remind me of Kirby, because it's that Kirby pink with that Kirby red. And if you look from behind, it's very Kirby, and I just absolutely love that. The last thing to mention is the different joints on this figure. So one thing that Jakks Specific does is that they will have a lot of articulate joints. It always is interesting to see what they put on which figures. So for these bigger figures, they usually do a 3D ball or some kind of joint for the ankle to make you be able to move it left and right, up and down a little bit. And then, of course, we have the knee joint, which is pretty standard joint, as well as the leg joint. Now, you do have a wrist joint, which another fairly standard one, but for this one, it only turns. It doesn't actually go up and down, which I'm fine with because I feel like that could be very breakable. And you do also have the elbow joints there and the arm joints, but the pads do make them a little bit tricky to move around. I'm assuming you probably have a head joint, but it's not very movable just because of the hair in the back. And honestly, I don't really mind it because overall, for me, this is a collector's piece, and the figure itself does look like it's more so meant for collectors, which might make a lot of people say, then why did you open it, you freaking dummy? And to that I say, you're right. But I do this because I like the collection, and I like showing off these figures to anybody who might be like, oh, I wonder what it looks like out of box, or anything like that. And I will say, I do get in this habit where I over-explain figures and all that and plush, and I know people have said in the comments like, oh my god, you don't have to go over every little detail. But the reason why I do that is because I'm so used to doing like amiibo unboxings or anime figure unboxings where there's these tiny little details where my camera is like just not good enough to pick up those details. So I get used to mentioning all those little things so that you know what is in the full figure in case like the camera doesn't show up. I don't mind if anybody says like, "Hey, why do you do that?" It really doesn't bother me, but I just wanted to mention the reason. So anyway, though, guys, that is going to be it for the Super Mario Brothers movie Princess Peach racing figure. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought of the movie and what you guys think of this figure. I really enjoy it, and it is probably one, if not the only movie figures I will get from this entire line. I'm sure they will do a second movie, and hopefully I'll either have more money. Well, that is a hope for just life in general. But hopefully they will also have slightly different designs where they don't do the glass eyes for those. If they do, it's fine. It fits the movie design. But then I just won't end up buying those versions of it, which is unfortunate because there are some pretty cool ones in there. I did really like the idea of the Bowser one too, which like breathes smoke, but I was like, that is way too expensive, so I'm just not gonna get it. Anyway, though, guys, I've been rambling on too much. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you guys in the next race. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, I tried. There was an attempt. Now's for the fun part where I tried to do the thumbnail, and I try to make it natural. Oh, what if I have... Oh, I can have her, like, hold the blue shell? Okay. I don't think I'm actually going to get, like, a good thumbnail for this, but that's okay. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye!